The new government flagship pension scheme designed to provide low-cost pensions to all workers, and almost half of all the adults are failing to save enough to secure a decent retirement, apparently. It seems that, let's just look at a couple of figures here. The single most important consideration, according to this report, with saving for retirement is how much you save. If you don't put enough in, you won't get enough out. Even allowing for a state pension of £7,500 a year, you need a pension fund of over £400,000 to deliver the kind of retirement income that most people are wanting, around £28,000 a year, according to this survey. The average savings for a 50 to a 64-year-old are currently £152,000, which means the average pension savings will be just £91,000. Well, they say you need £400,000. Are we really heading for disaster? Or is this idea that pensions and putting money into a private fund will actually do you good really working? Do they really have much of a return in this economic recession? Let's have a word with an expert, as we always do. Ros Altman joins us, who's the Director General of Saga and a pensions expert. Ros, welcome to the programme. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Is it your feeling that very few of us are putting away enough money to have a nice, comfortable retirement?
I think most of us probably know that they're not doing enough to guarantee themselves a decent retirement. And the problem is that it's very hard to know in advance how much to save, but the reality is that pensions are extremely expensive, and it's pretty frightening and pretty daunting to actually save in a pension.
So what do we do? What's the best way of saving some money from when we retire? Or do we just not retire and carry on working till we keel over?
To be honest, not till we keel over, but part of the solution for many people, if you really can't save, might be to plan to work part-time in later life. There's no reason why you have to stop altogether. Of course, you don't want to work full-time, full pelt until you're into your late 60s, but doing 2 or 3 days a week work and having 4 or 5 days a week off with more money to spend actually is a better lifestyle.
But the problem is, who's going to employ a 68-year-old or a 70-year-old?
You see, we would have said that 30 or 40 years ago if a mum had just had a baby and you'd gone to her and said, well, okay, when are you off to work? She'd have looked at you like you were crazy. Who's going to employ this?
Yeah, but slight difference, I suppose, in those days.
Not really. People are not old.
It's just that a baby is fit enough for work, whereas a 68-year-old...
I'm sorry, but I don't agree. People in their late 60s are not old.
But that's not what employers... I agree with you. That's not what employers think, is it?
That's part of the ageist attitudes that have to change. And employers who already have started to employ older people and keep them on are reporting back how valuable those employers are. They're much more loyal, they're much more experienced, they don't complain as much, and basically I think employers themselves have started to recognise the value of old workers, particularly if you allow them to work part-time. I think,
What is the value to an employer then of an older worker, as you say?
As I say, a lot of employers are now reporting that older workers are more productive than younger workers.
Really?
Hour for hour, as long as you've not got them working all hours. If you accommodate what they need, then they give you back more than the value that you would have expected. I mean, in Germany, BMW, for example, even a manufacturer like that, has set up special factory lines that help people who maybe they can't stand all day, they can sit down, but they still end up being more productive. So, there are lots of ways in which we will need to prepare for a longer and happier life. Some of it will come from saving, some of it needs to come from reform of the state pension, so we know what we're going to get and don't just bumble along and hope for the best because we haven't got a clue what's coming. We need to plan, and part of the planning is saving more, not necessarily in a pension, you could save in an ISA as well, and part of it is going to be, if you can, thinking about working longer. If you want more money, where is it going to come from? It's not going to come from nowhere.
How much do you think is needed a year for a comfortable pension, Ros?
One of the problems to answer that question is that there are no guarantees with this. It will depend on, what kind of investment returns you get and what things are like when you retire. But the rough guide would be that you probably need to save between 15 and 20% of your salary for some kind of okay pension. If you want the equivalent of a final salary type pension, where you've got an inflation-linked income of a decent level in retirement, you're probably talking closer to 25% of salary.
What, for the whole of your working life?
Well, for 35 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Quarter of your salary?
It's just not realistic.
No, it's not, is it?
And people don't, part of the thing is that everyone keeps living longer. If you were to have a pension starting at age 75, you wouldn't need to pay that, save that much. But to start it from age, say, 65, when we know that a lot of people are going to live to be 100, that's going to cost a lot of money.
I think a lot of people also get quite, envious isn't a word, but they're quite sick of hearing about these huge pensions that a lot of the bankers are on, and these bonus schemes that they're on, etc., etc., etc. And I think it almost depresses the nation when they hear about this, because they think, well, I'll never ever be allowed to live when I retire the same way that some of these people will be able to live. And I can't afford to put money away because the cost of living is so much now that if you're going to have children, you can't put anything away.
That's the reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can save something, but the problem with pensions again is that it's a locked box. Once you've put the money into a pension fund, even if you desperately need it back in 10 or 20 years' time, you can't get it, which has its advantages in that it's locked away for retirement. But if you're a younger person and you're struggling, to wonder whether you can afford to save anyway, the idea that you've got to just kiss that money goodbye for a long time is very frightening, which is why I say, maybe we should look for a bit more flexibility in pensions.
And the other thing, it affects all manner of society as well when you start thinking about your future like that, because you start to think, well, do I therefore need to sell my house and get a smaller one so I don't have a mortgage anymore, or I can't even afford to get divorced? Exclusively online at the Absolute Radio ticket store, absoluteradio.co.uk.
What do you think? I mean, the likes of Maharouf obviously hasn't done too well. You reckon Sri Lanka should go with the fourth seamer like Maharouf, or bringing a spinner to add a different dimension to the bowling?
It's going to be very difficult because you've got to get down to the Rose Bowl. We've got to assess the pitch. Now, from afar, I'm guessing because it's the first test match that the Rose Bowl has staged, they'll try and produce, when I say the best, the flattest pitch possible. I don't think they want to one of these bowler-friendly services, games all over 3.5 days that people ask questions, is the Rose Bowl good enough to stage a test match? So I'm expecting a batter-friendly service. Hampshire scored plenty of runs down at the Rose Bowl for the last 18 months or so. So, yeah, I think they'll go with the four-man seam attack plus Hera and Mendes. I think Hera deserves. He's got 5 wickets. Yeah, he's going to say he spins the ball as well. Mendes seems to have gone off the ball a little bit when he sort of came on the international scene. He burst on, didn't he? Bowled out in the etc. And since then, people seem to have got the better of him. So is he really just almost a slow medium pace? Just moves the ball an inch or two either way. Hasn't got as much mystery as perhaps when we first saw him.
I think Rose Cardiff problem was, being an unorthodox bowler, I wonder whether he struggled to click the ball, but with the sun shining, maybe you never know.
Now, let's see, again, I'm also going back to when he started the season at Torchwood in Somerset. There were high hopes, big hopes for him there. He didn't really set the world alight, so I haven't seen enough of him when he's been bowling very well to say, yes, he's got to play at the moment. He's just got cold fingers and sore fingers. He's not quite performing to his best, so I'd like to see more of him before I make a definite calculated judgment.
Thank you very much.